Hi, Gr10 Suzuki Science, and we are looking at your final culminating task for the course that is now happening this week. You have been given this question in the second week of the course, so this question is not new. You had an opportunity to work on this before we left for the pandemic break. Some of you did complete the question and received a little bit of feedback. Some of you did not. I've talked about this already. Now, here is the question one more time. I have it on my screen so you can see it. And this is the final question. It's very open-ended. Please note that you are allowed to include anything that we've talked about in the entire course that answers this question. Having said that, when you look at the first part of the question, a lot of this is things that we have not talked explicitly. It's been implied throughout the learning. It's been referenced in some of the notes talking about why climate change is so important, why climate change is affecting the environment the way it is, why do we care, all those sorts of things. So this week there is an actual PowerPoint, 2 of them, to support this concept. So this is the question. Climate change is the title of the final unit. However, it could easily be a part of any unit of the course, as it has wide-ranging influences on everything that we do in 2020. As you work through this, you'll notice that I've asked you several questions. You don't need to answer the questions question by question. Just look at the questions, look at the idea that's being asked, and then use whatever format you want to answer it. If you want to use a PowerPoint, that's fine. If you want to use a Flipgrid presentation, that's fine. Flowchart, diagrams, sketch notes, that's fine. Whatever you like. You can even use paragraphs. I don't suggest to use paragraphs, but if you want to use a report and use just words, you can do that as well. Please note that for a minimum response, I'm expecting you to include at least 1 graph. If you're doing the typical yellow, then that would be 2 graphs, and for the exemplary, the purple, then more than 2 graphs. Okay? Anything that you've submitted in this course already that's been your work, you can reuse, recycle, modify, I don't care. Do whatever you want with it, you can include it. I want you to include anything that you've used in this course to make this a better submission. Okay? The rubric is on at the bottom of this assignment, and you're welcome to refer to it. So taking a look at the resources to help you with this, you'll notice that I give you this Engage. It's a gizmo. We use gizmos at the beginning of the course. You guys signed up. If you didn't sign up with the original instructions from the D2L, then you only get 5 minutes in here. If you did sign up, then you have unfettered access to it. So the Coral Reef Gizmo will give you one of these major applications where climate change is affecting the biodiversity and how it impacts the world. Then you have this other graphic. It's a website, and you just move this bar back and forth and comparing the sea ice from 1984 to 2016. Notice I haven't highlighted these in yellow, green, or purple because these are things, you're not submitting this as a worksheet. These are all things, however, that you can include in your final product. The Engage here, this is going to bring you to a place called Gapminder. So I do want to show you what this site looks like. And if we were in class, I'd spend much more time looking at this site. But at this site, what you're going to find is these homes sampled from around the world, and they have a whole bunch of different median incomes. So the incomes can go as low as, look at that, $27, and as high as, what is that, $17,000, $20,000, $20,000. So you have these incomes here that are ranging from $27,000 to $20,000 per month. And then what you can do is you can click on a family, like I click on this family from Burundi, and it'll show you where they are in the world. I'll show you something about their home, and then you can visit the family. And so when you go into the visit, you can see what their kitchen, what their backyard, what their bedrooms, what their toilets and washrooms look like, the cooking. So you scroll through, and it gives you an idea of what $27 a day in Burundi, what it looks like for this family. Okay? So this is a great place for you to see how your lifestyle here in the GTA compares with other people around the world. I know some of you have been back to the West Indies or India or other parts of the world, and so you've seen some of these different lifestyles, but many of you have not. Right? So I encourage you to kind of play with that website, and then what did you notice, right? I want you to look at less than 200, between 800 to 1200, and then greater than 2000, what those incomes look like. Okay, and this is what you're comparing. So that's just a reflection. Then we have this ocean acidification. So this is a PowerPoint that I taught you already. This is not new. You already went to this lesson with me. Okay, so I'm showing you this view here. And on this lesson, we're looking at how the ocean is impacted by climate change. So specifically, as the climate changes, as we increase the carbon dioxide levels, what does that do? In a nutshell, the carbon dioxide that's increasing in the atmosphere will be pulled into the ocean, which is a carbon sink. The carbon dioxide, which goes into the water, will decrease the pH, making it more acidic. That acidity will have great impacts on the biodiversity. One of the things that it does is it affects coral reef. Coral reefs are the underwater rainforest. They have a critical role in a great deal of the biodiversity of the world and the oceans specifically. So when the coral reefs become acidified, they release one of their symbiotic organisms, this algae, and they're no longer able to live and prosper in the way that they were once able to. And so the coral reef begins to die. It's an event called bleaching. And so this bleaching event is associated with climate change directly, right? So that's kind of a summary of that PowerPoint. So you can review that PowerPoint. That was from the first month of learning in February, where I was making a specific connection to climate change. And then you're going to work to the sustainability PowerPoint. So once again, I'm not going to present this. You know, some of my PowerPoints I present and I talk it through as a lesson. I'm not doing it with this one here. So in this one, I'll show you the full view. This one has a lot of information inside of it. I'll make it a little bit larger so you guys can see. Right. So you're looking at how climate change, what the impacts of climate change are. And we're looking at studies. We're looking at who in the world, who in the government, who in the local, national, international governments are responsible for reducing, monitoring, measuring climate change, right? And as you go through this, look for those organizations. You'll see some links on here that'll give you places that visualize the major changes of climate change. And I encourage you to look at those as well. As I scroll down here, this slide I want to show you is, so there's a study created by the United Nations and by a specific division called the IPCC, the section. They did a report that went through a lot of vetting by scientists, governments, and experts. And at the end of this major report over several years, this was the conclusion. The climate is warming, the climate is changing, and the warming climate is going to result in these three things: increase in global sea and air temperatures, widespread melting of snow and ice, and rising global sea levels. So these are the three major takeaways from this major document that was created by the IPCC, which is a division within the United Nations. Okay, so that is an important slide to note, and everything around it will give you some more information through graphs and graphics. Okay, as you go through here, you'll see some excellent resources that you can refer to that will tell you and show you how the Earth has warmed over the past 100 years, 100 plus years, significantly, and as we project what the Earth might look like. These graphs sometimes occur as bars, sometimes occur as this graphic here, where the different colors represent the degree of climate change. This one here, you'll have access to this website, and I like this website because it does a really good job of connecting how climate change has impacted the temperature specifically. And so this is complete with many, many graphs that you can look at, along with some pictures to outline the impacts of climate change. In here, you'll see connections to previous learning in both cells and chemistry, a little less in optics. Okay, so I've tried to make these connections for you. And then this series of slides here, let me just reduce this. This series of slides that starts in this area, these are specific impacts of climate change, and there's many of them. So what happens to the There's increased drought, increased poverty, more storms, there's more severe, sea level rise and coastal flooding, Arctic ice melting, and then biodiversity risks, of which I want you to include biodiversity risks in your final response. So, and there's many biodiversity risks where the species and their habitats are all at risk, whether or not it's from the shift in the range. So instead of having this range that was more south, it's now going more north, which causes them to compete with animals or plants that aren't used to competing with these, with each other. It could be timing shifts where plants bloom earlier, but the bees don't come out as early, so they miss the whole pollination section. It could be soil erosion, drying up of water, ocean currents changing. I talked about the bleaching of the corals here. We have the pine beetle and the ash borer. These are beetles that would normally be killed in our cold climate winter, but now that the winters are not as cold, they're overwintering and causing even more damage to our forests. The number of wildfires that have been occurring have been increasing dramatically. Australia just came through the longest season and the most damaging season ever, but that is one of just many wildfires that have been raging around the world as well. And here I'd like to spend more time. If I was in class, I'd talk about the Antarctic and the major ice sheet that's up there, and how this global warming could very quickly cause an increase in sea levels as we lose major chunks of ice from the Antarctic and they fall in the ocean, melt, and warm up. Okay. We don't have time. I will offer a Google Meet for anyone who wants to do a special lesson on the Antarctic phenomena here. This was a bit more complicated, so many people probably skip it. You'll notice I don't have any words to support these slides. So it's more of me teaching it. But you don't need that information in order to get a high-level response for your climate change. And then there's actions. What can you do? What can you change personally, or by voting when you're allowed to vote to get certain governments in power, or by actively suggesting to the people who make decisions, this is what you can do to make the climate more sustainable, to make the climate less changeable by taking these actions. So there's a number of things that are big ideas, and then there's some smaller ideas. So look through this PowerPoint in order to get a better understanding. Then as you keep on going through, I have this wiki. So this wiki, normally I would leave it blank, and then as a class you guys would create it, or as a grade 10 group we would create it. What I've done is I've actually pulled the wiki from last semester, and I have left it with information inside of it. You can add to the wiki. That's what a wiki is, right? A Wikipedia. As you have some knowledge, you add to it, and over a period of time, whether that's weeks or months or years, the wiki gets more comprehensive and more accurate as more people add to it. And in this wiki, these are very specific actions that we can take as Canadians in order to reduce the impact of climate change. Right? So that's what this wiki is. So I encourage you to at least look at it and incorporate some of that information into your response. And then this final piece, which I don't think I'm not encouraging you to do because you already have enough work, but for those of you who are incredibly interested, I have an activity. It's called March of the Polar Bears, and you're looking at the relationship between sea ice and polar bears, biodiversity. And in this activity, you're going to take data from the NASA data servers, and you're going to map the sea ice, and you're going to look at the polar bear's range, and you're going to make a very direct connection between the two, as opposed to just be talking about it or reading it. You'll do the data, do the analysis, and then come to that conclusion. All right. So this is an activity that can be done. Does it have to be? Absolutely not. Don't feel pressured to do it, no matter who you are. And then finally, we have this footprint. You might have done a ecological footprint in grade 9 science or in your geography class. This one is a carbon footprint calculator, and it's determining how much carbon you produce based on your activities. This one is designed for students to complete, so you don't need all the records of energy usage from your parents' bills and all that kind of stuff. You should be able to complete this. At the end, it will tell you how many earths are necessary for you to sustain your particular lifestyle if everybody chose your lifestyle. Okay, the world average footprint 4.88. That's completely unsustainable. Sustainable means 1, and we're not there. Okay, so that is the final piece of this that prepares you to answer this question. So this question is due on Friday. If there's any problems meeting that deadline, do let me know. You have this entire week. I'm not assigning anything new. This document here is all resources and activities to support your final question development. All right. So in the PowerPoint, I'll also put the Google Meet slide saying if you want to know more about this, we can meet, and then that's where you email me and you let me know that you want to. Then I'll collect whoever's interested. I'll make a time and we'll meet, we'll talk, we'll learn, and it'll all be good. All right. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon.